what NFTs are trying to do is basically create a mechanism for speculation around art that sort of does to online art what that kind of speculative frenzy has done for, the existing art.
Well, I mean,
world.
yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, but I'm going to counter with something that's a relatively recent example of this working, and then that is the certificate of authenticity with sports memorabilia, especially.
Yeah.
Meaningless piece of paper that only refers to the actual object, and it became increasingly valuable during the baseball card wars and the signature wars back in the fucking late 80s and early 90s. It was the ability to authenticate that in any way, but all it did was give more value to something that already existed, right? So I think everybody's getting a little too smart for their own good. They're trying to figure out new ways to do this or do that. The same old stuff is probably what's going to be simply amplified by this new tech. It's not going to be some new thing, I don't think. And to be honest, I don't know what it is. I don't see any value in NFT, frankly, at least as far as, unless it's something like Giorgio's saying right now, which is that, when I say value, I mean intrinsic value. If it's something that a super fan wanted from somebody and they knew that only that, so if you take a picture specifically for that, right, maybe that matters to people. I don't know.
Well, what if you get some sort of certificate with your NFT? Does that now give it value because it does tangible? There's only 10 of those certificates printed with the 10 NFTs?
No, it's not. It's because, what he's saying is because a replication of this book right here, right, like the physical book, would be one thing. But I can literally right-click and download this picture I'm looking at right now, and it's the exact same thing. Like it's a clone. So where's the value in that? Like if somebody can steal it that easily, where's the value? And this is why this is why Napster went away. Like there was no way to assign value to these transfers. So I don't know what the solution to that is, or what, if anything, NFT tech will be able to transfer or secure. Maybe it's messages we're securing. Maybe we're encrypting information that changes hands for some purpose other than retail economy. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Look, NFTs might be the real deal. Like, people thought that about ICOs, but about initial coin offerings a few years ago. It didn't turn out to be. NFTs, they may be. And they may be for exactly the reason you just said, which is this notion of, it's like the piece of paper that authenticates the trading card. But there's sort of, it's so removed from the piece of paper and the card. Like it's a string of ones and zeros about the art itself, which is perfectly replicable. And then it's a string of ones and zeros about the blockchain, which itself is a technology that it seems to me is a technology in search of its killer app.
Yeah.
And its killer app may well be smart contracts down the road.
Maybe.
That we can authenticate. But I don't know if the NFT version has reached us to the promised land of the sort of killer app.
Well, I think it would. I think the NFT itself, if anything happens, I think it would be the killer app. It's you would have to view it only on that platform. It would be something that maybe you can take a screen, or you can take a picture with your fucking camera phone or some shit, but it is on some kind of secure platform that you cannot remove that media from anyway, record it. I mean, there's a number of apps that do that now. There's ways around some of them, but Spotify, for example, if you try to screen record with their Spotify podcast up and it's playing video, it will not allow you to screen record. There's all kinds of tech involved in that stuff. So if you could do something like that, but it would have to be only, that piece of digital material would only be viewable on that app. You would have to have that app and that token. You'd have to have both things handshaking to be able to view or witness it or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that may well be coming, but that's not what we have today.
Yeah, it's not what you have today. And then James, in your new book, Mine, here, you talk about the explosion of the baseball cards in the 1950s, and this is kind of what it feels like now. However, I would rather own an original Honus Wagner or something like that in my hands. That is one of 100 versus some digital artwork that I would have a hard time proving in the future.
Well, actually, part of our answers on NFTs actually goes back to the baseball cards in the 50s. So when baseball cards in the 50s had the same problem that NFTs have today, which is that there was no scarcity, that when Bowman Card Company printed baseball cards in the 50s, Topps said, hey, listen, we can do the same thing. We can just print baseball cards of the same characters. And Bowman said, hold on a second, we have exclusive contracts with all these baseball players. And Topps said, we don't care. We can just make our own cards. Like you have, there's no right to the image of these baseball players. We can profit from the baseball cards just like you can. And they went to war. Topps and Bowman went to war, and actually Bowman won. The courts in New York created a new form of ownership called the right of publicity, the right to be able to commercialize the value of your image, which is what, Marilyn Monroe and, Lou Gehrig, eventually could potentially make their money on. But Topps actually then bought Bowman. Bowman won the law. Topps actually won the war because they bought out Bowman, and then they had a monopoly on baseball cards for the next 40 years until the late 70s. But that monopoly was based on a much more powerful property right than is what underlies NFTs. It was based on law. NFTs are outside of the law. They're not based on law at all. They're based on technology. Technology is very powerful, but it's not law.